What's up, guys? Welcome to the Peer Review Podcast. My name is Caleb Davis, and I have notes. Before we get started today, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And also make sure to follow us on X at peerreview_pod and on TikTok at Peer Review Podcast. I hope everyone's having a great Friday. I know I am doing a quick video here today. I'm getting ready. I've been packing up, about to head back up to East Lansing, go back to the apartment, move back in, get back into the swing of things. I've been preparing for the spring semester, getting my schedule ready. Not my schedule, that's together, but figuring out where, how the day's gonna pretty much take place. So I didn't have a lot of time yesterday to watch a lot of the games, but I did get to see a little bit of the Warriors versus Pistons, and this kind of leads into our topics for today. So I'm going to touch on three different things. I'm going to start with the Thunder versus Cavs game on, what was it, Wednesday? And I titled this similar to the Cavs versus Celtics, Thunder versus Celtics, excuse me, but a battle of the Titans, where you had the 30-5 Thunder versus the 31-4 Cleveland Cavaliers. Then I'm going to move on to the Warriors versus Pistons, and their almost comeback win after going down 18 against the Warriors in the fourth and just battling back, especially on the second half of a back-to-back. So props to them. And then teams to watch, or more specifically, one team to watch, which is the Sacramento Kings. But to get things started, my general notes on the Cavs versus the Thunder, just to start off, this game was just so fast-paced. If you were watching in live time, both teams just pushed the tempo, and it's as to be expected. They're both two pretty fast-paced teams, but just watching it, the game flowed. The refs weren't really getting involved. It just had a good flow to it, and it was just a really good basketball game to watch. But this also made it a little hard to keep up with the action because transition plays were happening so fast. Steals, fast break buckets, everything came in rapid succession. And I'm sitting there watching the game with my dad, taking notes, and I might stop to type something or turn to him, try and have a conversation, and boom, next thing you know, Lou Dort's flying down, got a steal, running down the court, he gets a dunk. Stuff was just happening so fast, so fast. Another note that I have was the physicality. Like I said, the refs weren't really calling a lot of the ticky-tacky fouls. They were kind of letting them play and letting their play determine how the game went. And I enjoyed that because, no one likes to see a game where both teams shoot 40, 50 free throws. That's not, I'm exaggerating, but that's not a fun watch. And then just the statistical draw from both teams, because I felt I know both teams match each other, and they're both the best of the best at what they do. The Cavs are the best offense in the league, while the Thunder are the best defense in the league. And that's two juggernauts just clashing. And they're both so good at execution, especially in crucial moments throughout the game. So it was just fun to watch their adjustments against each other, and just the game overall. It was a fun watch, and it came down to the last minute or two, and that's always fun. You love to see a close game, but I was content as a fan. Now, I'm going to break it down from both sides like I normally do with the game breakdowns. I'm going to start with the Cavs and kind of what I noticed from them. And I'm going to go through the first through fourth and then move on to the Thunder. Similar format. So, for the Cavs, the roster is they're packed with so many offensive weapons. Pretty much everyone outside of their two bigs that they play can shoot and defend to a credible amount. And they all have their own specific ways that they impact the team and help them win. They have shooters like Strus, Dean Wade, who were punishing the Thunder all night, especially in the two, the left and right corners, just killing them back to back to back. And it would come in flurries. They'd hit a left corner three and they'd come down, hit a right corner three. It would just be back to back to back whenever it would actually happen. And then the last thing out of my general notes for them was Jarrett Allen. His size and physicality on the glass, that's what won them the game. And it can't be understated. And I know the Thunder don't have Chet, which is also a scary reality. When he comes back, they'll be able to match that a little bit more with two bigs. But to get things started, the first quarter, I thought Donovan Mitchell came out. He came out really aggressive, but I thought he was forcing a lot of his shots. They weren't really in the flow, and you kind of saw this translate as he had one of his worst games of the season, which is surprising because they still were able to pull out this win. The Cavs struggled early, though. They kept driving to the rim, and the Thunder defense just wasn't having it. But Jared Allen, he was that constant force at the rim. He's scoring. They had scoring on fast break dunks. He intercepted a pass. They got out in transition, and they started to open the game up for themselves. And then you move on to the second quarter. The Cavs went down a little bit, but they battled back and took a slim lead, which started to get undone by they had a couple, like a stretch. It was like a 2-minute stretch where they turned it over a little bit. Testament to the Thunder's defense. But they started to counter the Thunder's offensive rhythm by switching in the zone. And this is when you first saw that zone look that kind of halted them for a little and helped the Cavs get back in the game. The third quarter, though, I thought Darius Garland, he kind of set the tone early. He scored back-to-back on and-ones, and he forced Shea to pick up his fourth foul kind of early in the third. And this kind of forced Shea. They kept him in the game, but this kind of forced him, like, he had to be less aggressive, couldn't provide as much help on defense. You know, he kind of had to let guys go by him because you're not trying to pick up that fifth foul. Like, they need you out there. And this is also, like I mentioned, they have shooters. Dean Wade, he gave them a good spark off the bench. He had 2 back-to-back, like, just big threes that are like momentum plays. And then Max Strus, my Heat guy, he was lighting it up from the corners, hustling, hitting shots. And that left corner in particular has always been his hot spot on every team that he's been on. But he's always been one of my favorite role players because he plays bigger than his size. Like, he's about 6'5", but he can guard forwards, he can guard guards, he can shoot, he hustles, and he's just a good role player. He's a good 3-and-D guy, and they're just now getting him back and reincorporating him into the lineup, but he's looked good since returning. And then the fourth quarter, Max Strus, again, continued to shine, impacting the game on both ends, hitting shots, defense. And this is kind of when the Cavs went on their 8-0 run. And this was fueled by getting stops and then getting out in transition and scoring, offensive execution. And towards the end of the fourth, they started to pull away. They built a 7-point lead. And this is where I felt like Jared Allen directly affected the game. He had a possession late where he grabbed 4 offensive rebounds. And just the whole game, he's just drawing fouls because the Thunder, like, Hartenstein's their only 7-footer right now. And he was in foul trouble. And he was also gassed because he had been playing so hard the whole game. He had a great game, don't get me wrong. But he's going up against 2 7-footers. Well, Jared Allen isn't 7 feet, but two bigs. And it's tough. Like, when they have J-Dub having a box out, you know, Jared Allen, or when a switch happens and you got, like, Isaiah Joe down there. Like, there's not much they can do. And then that really was the game. Like, the size advantage that the Cavs have. And then, don't get me wrong, like, I thought Darius Garland was great. He is just so fast and so good at getting around defenders and keeping his dribble alive. He's been hitting shots at a better rate this year. And then also Evan Mobley, he kind of sealed the game, which I didn't think he was gonna. It was in the past. This season he's been a lot better, but like, it just shows his confidence. Like, he sealed the game with he had an ISO bucket over Isaiah Hartenstein where he just took it to him and scored in the post. And then Garland came down and put the game out of reach. He just blew by. I can't remember if it was, I think it was Case and Wallace on him, but he just blew by him, got a left-handed layup, and that was kind of the game. But one thing before I get on the Thunder that both teams do that I was impressed with. You don't see it a lot. Like, let's say they're driving down the left wing. The guy from the right corner will cut along the baseline. Like, they just give themselves options to throw the ball out to, which just makes it a lot more. It's a lot easier to make decisions when you kind of it seemed kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like natural. They have a chemistry and the feel for where their guys are going to be on the court. Like, a guy's cutting down. There's always going to be a guy cutting off the weak side baseline or cutting off the weak side corner, or relocating, like a shooter relocating around the wing, just giving you options and outlets so that if your rim drive isn't there, you don't have to just throw up some BS or, you know, force throw a turnover. Like, it gives you options and it helps your offense flow a little better. And both teams were doing it throughout the game. Like, you saw it a lot. Bigs would drive, drop it off, or Evan Mobley and Jared Allen have this kind of big man connection that they didn't have last season. Like, they'll just turn and when the big is trying to play in between both of them, like stop Evan Mobley's floater, but also stop Jared Allen at the basket. They'll just throw the lob, and it was there so many times tonight. But great game on the Cavs front. Now, moving on to the Thunder. So start off, I thought Shea he had a great game offensively. He struggled during stretches, but he just hit so many tough shots. He's so fun to watch, and he's so shifty. He's good at drawing fouls. And also J-Dub, he was really good in this game. I think he had 25. He's just so damn fast. Like, there was a play where he got a steal, ran out in transition. It was like 2 seconds. Like, he ran the whole court and dunked it. And it's like, what just happened? But again, like the Cavs, I thought the Thunder excelled at off-ball movement. They were cutting a lot and moving the ball around especially when Shea wasn't in. Like, Shea is their main creator, take a lot of shots and it works. But they also just do a good job of moving the ball around and getting open threes. Now, in the first, I thought their defense was really, really sharp. The Thunder were doing a good job playing guys one-on-one, but also collapsing when they needed to, forcing tough shots. Like I said, they had a lot of eyes on Donovan Mitchell at the start. And Shea was doing a lot of work out of the post, drawing fouls, and just making an impact despite Cleveland's size. Now, in the second, and just throughout the whole game, like, Hartenstein has this left-handed floater, and he used to do it a lot with the Knicks, but it feels like he just doesn't miss when he takes it. But he had a bunch of, like, drop-off cuts to guys back door. Like, he had, like, 8 assists in this game. But he picked up his third foul, and he had to come out. And this is when the Thunder switched into a zone defense. He didn't come out, excuse me. This is when the Thunder switched into a zone defense to kind of protect him. And so when they started getting those stops that I mentioned on the Cavs and started forcing those turnovers. Now, in the third, I mentioned Darius Garland got Shea into foul trouble, but Shea stayed in the game and just was a little less aggressive on defense, but he started being a lot more aggressive on offense. He got really, really comfortable in mid-range, hitting a bunch of shots, and things were just going really well for him, like an MVP performance, to say the least. And then in the fourth, the Thunder's offense kind of became stagnant because when you're relying on one guy to score all your points, because J-Dub, they had kind of taken him out of the game. There just wasn't a lot going for them, and it kind of felt like Cleveland was deliberately forcing the ball to Lou Dort. Like, they were kind of leaving him open. He was getting a lot of those touches and shots towards the end, and it messed up the Thunder's rhythm. And then Shea missed a layup, which was kind of the turning point in the game before the Cavs started to really, really pull away. Like, Hartenstein, he missed a layup, and I don't know if it kind of felt like he missed it on purpose, because he knew Hartenstein was right there and he could probably get the offensive rebound, because if Shea would have took it up how he wanted, he would have probably got blocked. It felt like he threw it up really hard because it bounced off perfectly to Hartenstein, but I just don't think he was expecting that. He kind of fumbled it, and they kind of missed their chance to close the gap. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask him, but it really felt like he missed it on purpose, and it almost worked out. But the summary in this game is the Cavs just, like time and time again, their size, the rebounding, they have so much depth. They play, like, the ball swings around so fast. Everyone touches it. They get great shots every single possession. And they have, like, their two-man groups where it was who comes in? They have their two-man stints where it's like Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and Darius Garland and Jared Allen. But you always have one really elite guard and one really elite big out on the floor at all times. So it just helps with their dominance, and they're just a big, physical, and just well-rounded team. And I just want to say, like, I wasn't out on them at the beginning of the season, but I was a little skeptical because, every season you have those couple of teams in both conferences that are like front runners that win a bunch of games and then play them out in the playoffs. Like, I'm trying to think who it was last year. I know this season, like in the West, like I'm thinking a team like the Rockets, like they're gonna win a bunch of games, but they're probably gonna lose in the first round to, let's say, like the Clippers end up against them in like a 6 seed if they stay through. Teams like that. So I was wondering if that's kind of the route and direction the Cavs were gonna take, but no, you've seen leaps from everyone on their team. Donovan Mitchell has been able to take a step back. Like, he doesn't have to score 26, 27, 28. He can kind of pick his spots, be more deliberate. And they just have a winning recipe going. And this kind of felt like a preview for a potential finals matchup in a couple of months. But who knows? We still got time. There's a lot more games to be played. Trades can be made, and a lot more can happen. But great game overall. And the final score ended up being the Cavs 125 to the Thunder 122. Now, moving on, the Warriors versus Pistons. Quick overview. I was planning to attend the game, but then a bunch of reports came out saying Curry wasn't going to play. Then he ended up playing, unfortunately. And this would have been a good game to be at. Like, a lot of the Pistons games I've been choosing to go to this year have been really competitive just because the Pistons are a better team. But it feels like every single game they play is like down to the wire, super close. But Cade has just continued to play at an all-star level. He's basically a triple-double threat every single night. And one of his key improvements has come from his three-point shot and the added attempts that he takes and also the increased percentage. He's at 37.6% on the season, and he's just been hitting shots, picking defense as a part of the floor general. He's been defending, getting the ball to shooters, and also just rebounding really well. Like, he's just a well-rounded player, and I'm declaring it here. Like, Cade is my favorite player to watch in the NBA. He has surpassed, like, my guy used to be Paul George. He'll always have a special place in my heart, but Cade is that's my favorite player. Like, I love watching him play. It's so fun to watch, like, especially in person. He's just, I don't know, man. Now, I'm going to start with the kind of breakdown of the game. The Pistons looked a little gassed tonight and went down early in the second. This was the second night of a back-to-back, like I mentioned before, but they went down early, then cut it back to 10 going into the half. This is kind of, I guess I'm trying to like paint the picture of the game. So they came out in the third and guys started hitting threes in transition. Like, they were down 10, they started hitting threes. So Ron Howland hit a three. Tobias Harris hit a three. Malik Beasley hit a three. And the next thing you know, it's a 5-point game. Now, moving on to the fourth, the Warriors went up 18. They were up 18 with about 5 minutes left. Like, Steph had like a 4-point play. They scored again. But the Pistons just battled back, kept getting stops, and then they were scoring on the other end. K was a big lead behind his charge. Like, he hit like 2 or 3 threes. He had a hook shot. He was getting to the basket, just doing so much for this team. And I'm going to save this for a second. I'm going to finish the breakdown. But the Pistons got the game to 104-107. They had K inbounding the ball to Malik Beasley. Like, K missed the free throw on purpose, got it back. The refs tried to say like it didn't hit the rim. They reviewed it. It did hit the rim. They got to inbound it, and they got a good look to Malik Beasley. He just missed it. It happens. It's a really good look to tie, but you move on. But I just want to say, like, props to the Pistons because, like I mentioned, this was the second night of a back-to-back. They could have just folded, lost the game when they went down 18. They could have let go of the rope, let the game be over. But no, they fought back, and it's indicative of their play this season, their improvement, and they're just trying to be a more serious basketball team. And that's all you can ask for is that guys are out there trying, putting in effort and doing the things necessary to win games. And it's shown in the record. Like, they have major improvements. If you take last season, juxtapose. I'm not even trying. If you take last season in comparison to this season, juxtapose is the word I was trying to pronounce, but it had a little bit of a stutter. But this game was played pretty evenly throughout. Like, if you look at the box score, most of the numbers, like fast break points off turnovers, the amount of free throws taken, 3-pointers made, like, they were all pretty even. But where the Pistons lost the battle and kind of why they went down early was on the offensive glass and then their bench production. The Warriors had 15 offensive rebounds to the Pistons 7. And it felt like every single person on the Warriors contributed with an offensive rebound tonight. I looked at the stats. Pretty much everyone outside of like 1 or 2 people had an offensive rebound on their team. But they were just quicker to the glass, quicker to the ball, and getting extra possessions, which kind of it deflated the Pistons a little bit. And that's why they went down. The other spot where the Pistons lost was the bench production. The Warriors bench contributed 37 points, while the Pistons had just 21. Now, this isn't something that I'm too worried about moving forward because the Pistons, they're ranked 4th in bench production this season. Like, their bench has been awesome. The Warriors ranked second, however. But I want to cut the Pistons some slack again because they weren't playing Tim Hardaway Jr. And Beasley had to move from the bench to the starting lineup because of Ivy's injury. So it's definitely playing a role. Like you moved your top bench guy to the starting lineup. You lost a starter. Like a lot of things have moved around. So I expect their bench production to drop a little bit, but that's not something I'm too worried about. But just to close out the Pistons Warriors discussion, like it was a good loss. If like no loss is good, but it's something you could walk away from. Like you don't beat yourself too much. You don't beat yourself up too much about a loss like that. Now, to end things, I just want to touch a little bit on the Kings and their recent resurgence as of late in the Western Conference. Things are kind of looking bleak for them after they went on that losing streak. Like when they lost all those 3 games against the Lakers and they were just losing games and kind of falling in the West. Well, they've turned it around. They fired Mike Brown and they just won 5 in a row. And they're tied for 10th in the West and 2.5 games behind the Lakers in 6th place. And they've strung together some good wins against some good teams. Like they beat the Mavs and they beat the Sixers and then they beat the Grizzlies. And then they blew out the Warriors and then they beat the Heat in a double overtime game. And this is just my my perspective, but I feel like this happens a lot when a team fires their head coach. Like they start to surge and win games and it doesn't always last, and we're going to see, but it's a good thing for them. Like their season isn't going to waste. Like if you asked like 2-3 weeks ago, like it was looking like they were going to have to, trade De'Aaron Fox, blow up the team. Like things weren't good. Get rid of DeRozan. But now they give their front office an opportunity to maybe invest in the team a little more, whether right or wrong. And they're just a little more competitive in the West, and they're going to be in the mix. But a couple of changes as of late and kind of why they've been winning more games. The first thing is they're just scoring the ball better. Like the Kings have to be a great offense because they don't have they have so many good offensive players. They don't have a lot of good defensive players. Now, as I noted the last time I talked about the Kings when they were on that losing streak, they weren't scoring or defending. During this 5-game winning streak, they're averaging 122.6 points per game, which is really, really good. And one of the guys leading that charge has been DeRozan. He's just been scoring the ball a lot better as of late. And he's been playing like vintage DeMar, closing games, hitting shots from the midi, out of the post, drawing fouls. He's been doing it in the Warriors game, he was great. In that Heat game, like he stole the game. Sad to watch. But then they've also been defending a lot better. Like they've had a defensive rating of 108.3 in their last 5 games, which is really, really solid. So they're outscoring teams and they're also defending really, really well. But I think the thing that was most impressive about those 2 wins against the Heat and the Warriors was that De'Aaron Fox didn't even play. So you beat the Warriors by 30, and then you beat the Heat in double overtime without having your best player. Now, they have their biggest test today, though. They head to Boston, and they face the defending champs. And I think a win against Boston could go a long way towards their confidence, turning their season around. Because I think if they win this game, they go to 500. Pretty sure they're 18-19, and you beat the defending champs. Like that's a big confidence boost. And they've had a couple days to rest. Like I think it's been 3 or 4. So they don't really have an excuse of being tired coming into this game. Like they played Miami on Monday. Yeah, on Monday. And they haven't played since then. So they're going to come in fresh, ready to go. The Celtics are just coming off a win against the Nuggets, but should be a good game. But that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning into the Peer Review Podcast. And please make sure to share the podcast with your friends and family, as well as follow us on X at peerreview_pod and on TikTok at Peer Review Podcast to stay up to date with our latest episodes and releases. This is the Peer Review, signing off.